house this week and stuff. Right, Polly, don't mention the freezer. I mentioned it once, but I think I got away with it. Anyway, so we got about 3:30 yesterday afternoon, and we were all a bit tired. But then we discussed who was on today, and I thought it was Clive, and Clive thought it was me. So it was I thought, yeah, well, yes, well, great, lovely. We'll, you know what, John too, that'll be all right, you know. It's probably the woman at the well or something. My ex has been married 5 times. I can bring that in, get a couple of laughs. I can do a joke about the world's first one-woman clinic and all that stuff. And we can dig about. We can get something out of that passage. It'll be all right. So I said, yeah, all right, mate. Don't you worry. You go home, install in your freezer, and muck about. Have a night off, and I'll do that. It'll be okay. So then I got home and got my Bible out. And it's the wedding at Cana. So it's not the woman at the well at all. So we do make mistakes with that stuff, don't we? And you have to be very careful what you agree to and what you say. Like chaps, when your wife's sorting through the craft room and she says to you, "Have you seen my fat quarters?" Be very, very careful how you answer. Be very careful. And then you just use the expression from the song earlier. That's amazing, love, when she's made something. So, we're going to look at John 2, water you turn into wine, open the ice to wine, etc. So, are we on? Right. Gospel reading today is from John, chapter 2, verses 1 to 12.
It's
John
still
2.
on.
John 1. The Gospel reading. On the 3rd day, there was a wedding at Cana of Galilee. The mother of Jesus was there. Now both Jesus and his disciples were invited to the wedding. When they ran out of wine, the mother of Jesus said to him, "They have no more wine." Jesus said to her, "Woman, what does your concern have to do with me? My hour has not yet come." His mother said to the servants, "Whatever he says to you, do it." Now there were set there 6 water pots of stone according to the manner of purification of the Jews, containing 20 or 30 gallons apiece. Jesus said to them, "Fill the water pots with water." And they filled them up to the brim. And he said to them, "Draw some out now, take it to the master of the feast." And they took it. When the master of the feast had tasted the water that was made wine, and he did not know where it had come from, that the servants who drew the water knew, the master of the feast called the bridegroom, and he said, "Every man at the beginning sets out the good wine. Then when the guests are well drunk, then they inferior. You have kept the good wine until now." This beginning of signs Jesus did in Cana of Galilee, and manifested his glory, and his disciples believed in him. After this he went down to Capernaum, he, his mother, his brothers, and his disciples, and they did not stay there many days. Amen. Speak to God. This is the Gospel reading. So, this is a fairly standard set piece from John. He's got a little story to tell of stuff that was happening, and he's broken it down into a section into 5 handy chunks. Verses 1 to 2 is setting the scene, it's a wedding, etc. It says who's there. Verses 3 to 5, a need arises. Verses 6 to 8, the miracle meets that need. Verses 9 to 11, you've got the response to the miracle. And then, verse 12, you've got what happened next, what Jesus did next. So it's a bit like Susan Coolidge in the Katie books. You've got what Jesus did, and then what Jesus did next, and stuff like that. But they don't go to school, so it's slightly different. So, verse 1, let's pick out the main features. On verse 1, on the 3rd day, there was a wedding in Cana of Galilee. John loves the 3rd day because obviously, 3rd day Jesus rose again. 3rd day, good things happen. And on the 3rd day, we're qualified to be the bride of the Son because of what he has done for us. But this is not the 3rd day in 3 years' time. This is the 3rd day of this, and there's this wedding, and we can know with a reasonable degree of certainty that Mary's got some key part to this wedding, because it bothers her that the wine has run out for a start off. It might be mildly inconvenient, it might be a bit of embarrassment, or you could tweet about it, when wine run out, sort of thing, but she's bothered about it. It exercises her, she's bothered about it, so she's either, and we're not sure to be fair, and there's different commentators have got different ideas, is it a relation of Mary's, or even and therefore a relation of Jesus? Because it must be something akin to that, because Jesus has rocked in with his disciples. Now, when you go to a wedding, you get like, here, Chris, I'd like to invite you to our wedding, plus what? Not plus flipping nearly 12 and a couple of hangers on. You know, that would crash the pot. That'd cause your wine to run out, wouldn't it? So you'd almost like, you'd actually all argue that Jesus has contributed to the problem, because he's rocked in with the entourage, security and all that. He's rocked in and he's helped the wine to run out faster than it might otherwise have done that. Some of the commentators say it's John's wedding, but we don't know, because we weren't there, and John is suitably understating stuff. He doesn't say, this was me, this was that was me, and that. He just goes, oh, some disciple of Jesus loved them, and stuff like that, which is not actually offering preferment in any way when John says that, by the way. He's not saying he loved me, he didn't love the others. He's saying Jesus, because he knows that Jesus loves everybody absolutely equally. He's just saying, some disciple of Jesus. Anyway, Jesus and his disciples rock into his wedding and contribute to the problem of the wine coming out. So, and then we have the statement of the obvious again. Mary comes, the mother of Jesus said to him, they have no wine, or no more wine. And Jesus said to her, woman, what does your concern have to do with me? Now, we're up the north here, our northern clubs, right? Woman, shut it, fetch me beer. You know, we go, hang on a minute, you know, that's a bit brutal, isn't it? You know, what's going on? Woman. But it's not, it's his form of address to Mary. Even in his tender moments, his most tender moments, when he really, really cares, it's his form of address to Mary. We just flick forward in our minds to John 19, 26, 27. Jesus is on the cross and we've worked out by this point that Joseph is fairly locked down, because he's not mentioned after Jesus at the age of 12. You don't see Joseph, so we think Joseph was older than Mary, and he's now there. So we've got this disastrous situation where Jesus he's dying, and although he's coming back to life, he's not sticking around, because he knows he's then going to prove he's alive, prove he's being dead, and then push off ascension-wise to his rightful place. So he's on the cross and he's sorting out his earthly affairs, and he's saying, look, you know, I'll get you someone to look after you, because you're with a widow with no son. You know, you've got no support. Jesus therefore saw his mother and the disciple whom he loved standing by him, and he said to his mother, woman, behold your son. And he said to the disciple, behold your mother. He's made John family so that John will look after Mary, and that's his tenderest thing, and he's called a woman, you see. So know that back here, he's not being rude, he's not being dismissive, and he's not thing. And then when he says, and what does your concern have to do with me? It's not, you want me to bother about that? What's going on? Why would I bother about that? And it's not, that's not dismissive either. What does your concern have to do with me? It's a Semitic expression for it's not dismissive at all. It's offering the listener of the expression to whom it's directed the opportunity to explain, and to explain quietly why you should be concerned about this situation. He does sort of drive it about a bit and go, look, my hour has not yet come. You know, I hadn't actually planned to do stuff here at this point. I'm still, you know, I'm not supposed to give it not doing the big reveal, you know. And all that, we're not doing the big reveal, my hour has not yet come. And You know, it's like she's trying to force timing onto God. She's trying to God, has said effectively, as Jesus, God has said, okay, I realise, that's my concern, right? My hour has not yet come. I shouldn't really be doing this, right? Do what he says. You know, that's just complete sort of failure to listen to that last bit, really, and to crash on going and forcing God's hand. You know, I think we do that sometimes. You know, God says something and then we're about timing and we just try and force his hand, don't we? And we go, right, I don't care, I want it now. And there was a little sketch years ago on Spitting Image, and they got a Margaret Thatcher up there, nice popular one, going, and the scene just cut to Margaret Thatcher talking and going, and next time I ask her to do something, I want it done properly and on time. Amen. and it was like meant to be sort of humour Maggie bossing God about, and actually, do you know what? I think we do. We boss God about, or we try to, you know, and that's a big wrong. So Mary's not been listening. Whatever says you do it, and all that stuff. So I've got to be careful not to move about it, because Chris got in awful trouble last week perambulating about and getting out of the camera shop. So I've been checking Scott's eBay purchases to make sure he's not bought any of them laser control machine guns and stuff on the old Berlin Wall. You know, you step into the dead zone, in the kill zone, and you're off. So there's a kill zone down here and a kill zone down there beyond the blue cable.
I didn't order them from eBay, I ordered them from Amazon.
Okay. South American built version of it, Argentinian.
That's the one.
Yes. That's the massive thing, wasn't it? And you've got in the solution, right? Okay, solution, water, that's a solution. 6 stone water pots of stone according to the manner of purification. Now the Jews were into ritual washing in a big way. Now there was practical washing going on. We alluded a little bit earlier on when we talked about the sort of the dusty Palestine roads and stuff like that at the time, and how the donkeys, the asses, and the camels all went to the toilet down the road because they weren't any services and stuff, and people used to get it all over their feet. And John the Baptist, is saying in chapter 1, verse 27, "Look, someone comes after me, Jesus, the straps of whose sandals I'm unworthy to untie." So basically, he is saying, I am not worthy to act as the lowest servant. The lowest servant's job was to wash the feet of the people who came into the house, so that said camel dog and donkey droppings didn't get into the nice Afghan rug that they got on the floor. So, and John the Baptist is saying, look, don't follow me, follow Jesus, because I'm not worthy even to wash his feet. So, Jews are into ritual washing. A couple of directions about that. They'd be great. I mean, that's probably what they got. They seem to have coronavirus sorted, because they're ritual washing. You know, and they don't have to explain any of this because they're off. You don't have to explain 20 seconds scrubbing in 2 directions and apply the lotion, do you, to them, because they're off doing that because the Torah says so. It says it 3 times. Torah. And then the ritualistic washing. Now. When you write something down quick and you can't read what we've written. Ignaz
all the time.
Semmelweis, he was Jewish. He was in Vienna General Hospital in the 18 whatevers, and he was trying to work out why the bugs and infection and fatal infection was going round and round the maternity ward and stuff, and he came up with the one about if you did the ritual washing between patients, as a good Jewish doctor should, then your incidence of
cross-contamination
was seriously reduced. So, and then God must have been sitting there going, I've been telling you that for about 4,000 years. What do you want, you know? But you know, can't you just listen to them, you know? Anyway, so then washing, and this is obviously symbolic of the Jewish old way of purification, and then Jesus is coming, banging in, showing that there is new wine and a slightly different way in purification and stuff. There are 6 stone jars there. Now, 20 or 30 gallons. That's a bit massive, that. It's either 6 times 20, 120, lowest, 6 times 30, 180 gallons. Don't know how big this wedding was. It must have been reasonably big, because it wasn't a complete disaster when Jesus rocked up with the extra disciples. And it did last several days, but that does sound like glorious oversupply if you're going to turn 180 gallons of water into wine. Now, first, Jesus says to them, draw some, so it says, fill the water pots with water up to the brim. Now, that must have taken a while, so actually this no wine situation must have gone on a bit. It would have been apparent to absolutely everybody by this point that there was no wine. It wasn't just, hang on a minute, we've just sent the waiters out with the last pitcher of wine to fill people's glasses up. Can you do something about it? Right, okay, here it is. It took them a while, because they would have been using maximum about 2 gallon containers and going down to the well in order to fill up these vessels. Now, there's a fairly common misconception about this stuff. There's a potential misconception. We're not certain that the water in the vessels was in fact itself dirty. It's probable that it was at least a bit mucky, because they might have washed their hands in it, if you like, but we don't think it was foot water. You wouldn't have taken the foot water and then put foot water with attached said camel droppings back in the pot to use again. You'd have chucked that and carried on with some more, but you could quite easily have poured water over your hands and then it would flow back into the vessel, so that this water that was in these pots, aside from the water that was added by way of dilution from the well at the instruction of Jesus, it was likely to be a little bit dirty, but not sort of serious grey water or sewer water. So he fills up the pots to make sure he's got the absolute most that he's got there. And then he says to the servants, right, draw some, take it up to the master of the feast. Now, that's an act of faith, isn't it? He knows how many, the head count, he knows how many people have washed their hands in this container of water. You know, a pretty good idea. And or, the very, very best case, it's water, just water, nice clean water, just drawn from the well. So he knows it's not wine. And he is going to take it up at the insistence of this fairly scruffy bloke. Up to the top table to get it tested. Now, he's the servant. He's going to be in trouble if this all goes a bit south. And that's an act of faith there. So he's doing that. And then the master of the feast tastes it. It's got some nose to it, not in a bad way. You know, tastes it. And you go, oi, bridegroom. And the bridegroom in this book was said to be responsible for the wine. I mean, and it was a sort of completely background from what we do in the West, where the bride's family seems to be responsible for the receptionists, and the bridegroom's family seems to be responsible for the wine. Whether the rest of the meal was to do with the bride's family, I don't know. The bridegroom is responsible for the wine. So he goes over there and he has it with him and says, look, you know, what are you doing, man? You're a bit tapped. This is the best wine. And the implication is the best wine he has ever tasted, not the best wine that's been here today. This is the best wine. It's like someone's gone to Rothschild's chateau and uncorked a load of really old stuff that's been mellowing for a couple of 100 years or something. You know, and you know, this is, you know, Mouton Rothschild, whatever, you know, this is the best wine. And he says, look, why did you not serve this first And this other stuff that we've been drinking before, you could have kept till later, down the border a bit, because it's not as good. So instantly, Jesus has changed water into wine. So we've got a couple of immediates, because we've got, they ran out of wine, and in verse 3, immediately they're a bit thrown onto Jesus. And then he says, look, really I'm not supposed to do this, stuff yet, but immediately she just has to try and get on with it, and backs into the corner a bit. And then immediately this water is turned into wine, and then thing. Now the bridegroom, they go to the bridegroom responsible for the wine. Jesus effectively is establishing himself as the bridegroom and saying we had some old inferior ceremonial ritualistic washing, but I've got something that's new, it's marvellous, it's the best you could ever taste, and there's lots of it. You know, there is lots of it. There is a complete and utter oversupply of wine at this point. Now, we can, it's the Just Eat moment again, it's time for the takeaway, and we've got, what we do is we can be the mayor, we can't we push timing onto God. We push timing onto God and try and tell him not just what we want, but when we want it. God says something, and then we're just not listening. We go steamrolling on with the establishment of the thing that the time, the schedule and the action that we've set, because this is going to happen, because we're absolutely convinced that it's God's plan. And then what we should be doing is the Mary bit. We should be saying to ourselves, right, whatever he says to you, do it. That's the advice today. Don't try to push the timing onto God. Keep looking and listening all the time, the old green cross code, and then whatever he says to you, let's do it.
Brilliant. So, like I said before, it's a hard one. Seeing lots of time, and I'm very impatient. Bringing these microphones on.
It is working.
So we're going to have one or two more songs before we finish, and then it's lunchtime. Otherwise, not lunch.